Good morning. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 9:05 a.m., September 17th, 2025. I'd like to welcome back Vern. He's going to do an invocation for us. Thank you, Vern. Which Vern, it's good to have you back. Your presence was missed. Nikki, would you be able to take roll call?
Carlos Hernandez,
Here.
Tara Gishik, here, Shane Drift,
Nino Ma.
Robert Moyer.
Here. Council can review the agenda for today. Any additions or deletions?
Mr. Chairman, I have one addition. It can go after me at the end of the meeting, and that would be a statement regarding the bear hunt from the Conservation Committee. And just for council and the audience's information, as far as we know, Morgan Olson will be attending virtually, and she's the only one.
Much appreciated.
That's going to be after you, Miranda.
Yes.
We'll move to approve the agenda.
Moved by Robert. Do I have a second? To
Second with the addition.
motions to approve the agenda with the addition of the update. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried. Next is the approval of the meeting minutes for September 3rd, 2025. There's no questions. Ask for a motion to approve September 3rd, 2025 meeting minutes.
Move to approve.
Moved by Tara. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Robert. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried. Next is September 8th, 2025.
Move to approve.
Moved by Robert. Do I have a second to approve September 8th meeting minutes?
Second.
Second by Tara. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried. Next on the agenda is September 12th meeting minutes.
Miranda, did we get all the positions filled on the boards?
Some of them have been filled. Some of them are still in the pre-employment phase. So some of them have been approved and I need to notify them today.
What
Wow.
about the like the election judge and all that? The positions are done then?
Sorry?
The election judge and contest judge, them positions are filled and no problems there?
As far as I know, there isn't any problems there.
Move to approve.
Moved by Shane to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Tara. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried. First thing on the agenda is our consent agenda. Would you be able to read those items, Miranda?
Yes, under the consent agenda, letter A, the THPO-Lagoon excavation and recommendations. Vote was 3-4-0 against 0 silent. Letter B, donation committee recommendation for Terry Goodsky to attend the Hawaii All Nation Powwow. The vote was 3 in favor, 0 against, 0 silent. And letter C, resolution number 26-2026, changing Park State Bank signatories for the wilderness. The vote was 3 in favor, 0 against, and 0 silent.
Ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda as read.
Move.
Moved by Robert. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Tara. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried. Next on the agenda, a donation committee recommendation, $500 to the Pelican Lake Pickleball Association. I'm not sure who's presenting this, or is this just a recommendation from the committee? Looks like it was approved by the committee, donation committee.
I'll move.
Motion,
Move to approve the donation committee recommendation for $500 to the Pelican Lake Pickleball Association.
moved by Robert. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Tara. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried. Next up on the agenda, we have Kim Greiner. How are you doing today, Kim? Looks like we have two things to talk about today. First is going to be a recommendation and summary of the BIA 105L lease funds.
Okay, good morning. You've heard me over the past several years come up and talk about our team that's been working on the 105L funds. And on the national, there's a lot of legwork to do with it. we're trying to maximize as much funds. And then we finally started to get some of the BIA funds in, so we have to have a recommendation how to set it up for accounting and managing the funds. So my first thing I want to go through is my summary. Would you like me to share my spreadsheet on the screen so that the audience can? Okay.
That would be a question for Jeff if that falls under data privacy.
Oh, yeah, I didn't think that.
Well, he hasn't seen it.
Oh, it's just the amounts that we got in. It's not anything that we spent it on. What we've negotiated, so. It's a summary sheet, Jeff.
Summary sheet of just the 105L revenues.
Yep, and from the time that we started getting it, and it lists the amounts by the building and from which funding agency.
Okay, yeah, that would typically, I mean, if it's in a, if that would be in the budget or audit information, that'd be, partially protected band member information. And so it would be up to council whether to authorize it to go into a public meeting or not. I think typically in the past it has been presented, but I think that would be, I'd recommend that just council take a vote real quick to authorize disclosure of it in a public meeting. That'd be the most prudent thing to do under the data privacy ordinance.
We ask for a motion to just share the spreadsheet so we can be transparent and show we're not trying to hide anything here. Is there anything, there's not anything that needs protection, I don't think.
I move to show the spreadsheet.
I have a motion by Tara to
Second.
second by Robert. No, all in all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried. Okay, you can share the screen.
Okay. Okay, there's a lot of information on my spreadsheet. And so this may be helpful to explain how much work has gone into it and how much more work we have to do. We're not near the end of trying to still optimize, but we're learning every year and stuff. So I have listed that we have, these are on the left-hand column here. These are our leases we have. So currently we have 22 leases between BIA and IHS for a total of 19 buildings. So there's 3 buildings that have shared services between the 2 buildings, the 2 IHS and BIA functions. And they are those 3 buildings are the ambulance and community and fire department building over here. The family health building, because they have like health services on top, and like Terry Morrison's programs are in there. But ICWA's in there, and that's a BIA function. And the Vermilion Center also has both BIA and IHS functions in there. So over the years, it first started back in 2000. It was started negotiating back in 2019 for 19 funds, and we thought we only had 3 eligible buildings, and that was the Net Lake Clinic, the Vermilion Clinic, and the Hideaway Pines that had the SUDS program in it. So those were the 3 that we had negotiated for. 22, we started to research, so we only had those 3. So in 23, by the time we got started to negotiate, we got real aggressive for the amount buildings and expanded it. So it took us probably a good year and a half to get all that information together between appraisals and negotiating the leases. So that we really saw, we've turned those applications in 23. So 23, 24, and 25 is where we really started to see the increase, you know, because we had the numbers. And so 23 was only a partial year because it went on the date of your, for BIA, you turn in a letter of intent and they go back to that day. IHS is the actual day that they receive the full package. Was it, Jeff, or when it was signed? I can't remember. They both have different rules. So overall each year, and then so there's a schedule with the BIA, who we negotiated with BIA and IHS, and the amounts by year. Now the pink highlights, like in 23 for the BIA, we have those money in-house. Then the blue ones, we fully negotiated those with the BIA, but the monies have not arrived here, and it's really slowly moving the funds through. So a couple of things. The total from 19 through 25 that we have successfully negotiated is $14,15,439.60. Just when we went really aggressive, of that, we've for 23 through 25 is 11,928,287.60. So you can see it made a big jump. And then on the BIA, because I talked about what arrived. So at the BIA, I hid one column, that's why it's not showing on the screen. We've received, so IHS, we have received an in-house for 105L funds, $7,259,861. The BIA, because they're much slower, we've received $1,896,893.03. And we're still waiting on the approved money of $4,858,685,057 from the BIA moving through their process. Both agencies have reached out to ask if we're negotiating 26s. So we have submitted our, for IHS, we have submitted. And for BIA is on the agenda, you know, for approval for Carlos to sign, to submit for the BIA. We are going to make some changes. We're going to, like I said, it's a learning process. So there's 2 buildings we're going to change our negotiation methods and ask for some specific items. There's a way to do that. So the 2 buildings that we're looking at doing that with is the Vermilion Clinic and the tribal government building here, because we have loans on those buildings and we can negotiate in for the actual principal and interest payment on. So we have figured out the amount and have submitted the IHS one for the Vermilion Center. If we're 100% successful, because we've added some other items, you know, in there. It's going to be about additional $200,000 a year. So for 26, if we had not changed how we were going to do anything, there, IHS has indicated that the CPI for 26 negotiations will be 2.57%. So if, you know, everything just went through exactly the same, between the 2, it would be, we would be negotiating for $4,795,599.27. So we're working on those. So, but that's a couple of things, like under IHS, we are not renewing the IHS portion for the Vermilion Center because they're relocating their staff. And then we'll have to relook at the space areas of what it's going to be used for and and you know, probably put some of that space in the BIA.
All right, so then with that being said, how does that affect the budget on that end?
On that end, so on the Vermilion Center for 25, the 105L funds we had, it's primarily BIA. Most of that building is used for BIA functions. And the BIA portion was 59,906.40, and the IHS portion was only 7,984. Because the common space, the common use space, we negotiated under BIA when we did it first originally.
So if they're moving them out, that 7,000 that you're talking about, correct?
Yeah,
So does that create a shortfall then?
no,
No.
because we'll relook at this, because we have to turn in a map of a blueprint basically,
Mhm.
and we'll identify what we're gonna use that, and we'll probably move that into the BIA square footage.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a lot of moving parts.
And then in turn, the IHS part will go to the new space that they have, and then that needs to be analyzed.
Yeah, I don't know where they're.
Or it
located.
might stay the same,
Yeah,
wherever they are
Uh-huh.
located.
yeah, depends on.
And occupancy is the key.
Yep. So, other things that we have done, so we had 5 new appraisals done that we have submitted either modifications or new, and so those 5 new buildings that we've already submitted for is the Duluth Urban Office, New Moon, the duplex portions, because we didn't have that in the first one. The OEO Palmquist Shelter, the Quonset hut up across from the store, and the Sawmill Storage Building. And all 5 of those come up to, their fair market appraisal values was, a little bit over $534,000.
So with that, and only as an example, the 5 new buildings that the approval is still pending, correct?
Yep,
And then if they're approved, how long will it take to get the money?
that's the $1 million question.
Okay, but hypothetical, let's say we did get them, the tribe did get the money, let's say next year.
Yep,
So now the money that was currently used to fund whatever the expenses in there, that'll basically take care of that and free up the money
for other things,
for
yeah.
other things.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
In my summary memo, I'll talk about that, but I didn't count those ones in there yet. So then we've also contracted for 5 more appraisals. You know, so we're at different stages. Appraised. We use a company out of Duluth. It's called FI Salter. They will be around, they'll be doing the on-site appraisal work in October with the anticipated appraisals finished from them to us, to Boys Fort in December, and then we can apply. So we can't apply for the food shelf. Even if we had an appraisal, we couldn't apply for it today because it's not occupied as far as I know. Yeah.
Now, questions with appraisals,
Uh-huh.
because you know that's going to be an expense. Now, once the tribe pays for that appraisal to be done, and it's not approved yet for 105L, once the approval is done and the money starts coming in, do we get that money back that we used for the appraisal expenses?
No, the tribal council upfronted that as an investment out of the general fund. Appraisals are about $4,000 a building.
Okay.
And we don't get an appraisal every year unless if we want to change something.
And then is there a need to have another appraisal done within a couple of years, every so
If
often?
yeah, it depends on how market conditions change and if you did significant improvements.
So then, but then that would be able to come out of that 105L
Yeah.
money, then they'll try to
Yeah.
have to pay for it then.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
This was your initial investment, which was paid off greatly. So, the 5 buildings that we've contracted for new appraisals is the Vermilion Maintenance Facility and Food Shelf. The Virginia property where, HHS is building and is, it'll be probably perfect timing because construction will be wrapping up and then by the time they occupy it, it'll be when we get the appraisals. The International Falls, Program Office. We, at one time, we did have a lease for their old property, but when they moved buildings, we had to drop that lease and we have to get a new appraisal. And then the Minneapolis Urban Office and the Heritage Center. So we have to work, to identify how they meet what are called PFSAs, programs, services, functions, and activities under funding agreements to match that. And so, sometimes we have to have conversations with the program managers to get really good narratives.
Now, when you talked about the I-Falls office there, did that expense come from the tribal government or did it come from Dan and IHS?
Comes from a grant.
Come from the grant?
Yeah, they have a grant from the state of Minnesota,
Okay,
and that's in there.
okay, thank you.
Yeah. And so in that case, if we get the money to pay their lease, that leaves more money for program services in that case. So they won't be paying space costs out of their grant, they'd be able to provide more services. So the changes, we talked about some of the changes. I think I covered all those, so we'll move on. So what we have upcoming to work on is once the new DNR building is complete here and it's occupied, we do a new lease for that because we have a lease for the old the building over here. So then if we're not using it for one of the BIA functions, we would drop the lease and get a new lease for the new building, which will be significantly more because the value and the age of the buildings and
So basically, we're gonna lose funding on this end once they leave here.
yeah.
Then it's gonna take some time before we get approval for that building. It could be a year or two before we get the funding back for that building out there. Is that what I'm hearing?
There'll be a timing issue, yeah. But it depends on what we're gonna do with this building too over here. You know, those are all things, it's constantly changing, so like if you're gonna tear it down, we don't even have a building to lease, right?
Yep.
If we use it for a function for the time being, for a PFSA under the BIA, we just change what we're using it for and just keep the lease in place. It would be just the narrative. So that's kind of where that goes. So that's how it works. We have to work on, we've been trying to figure out how to get the food shelves justified. Our team has had conversations. We need to get some more specifics about the programs. Just a straight food shelf is not a function of either one. So, you know, we have to look at some other services that are provided in there and we need more narrative. And then this one is the water and sewer. We had the like the pump houses and the water towers and all that appraised. And IHS initially rejected all those, although water and sewer is listed in our IHS compact. But there may be some caveats on it, so we have to decide and have a further discussion if we want to make what's called a final offer, and then they have to give us reasons why they won't fund it. And there may be a question if we get that, if we do that, if we would get the funding for like where we're getting the funding to do the pond expansion and the water tower rehab. So we have to, you know, balance them. And so there's a lot of questions around it yet. So we're still exploring.
So let me see if I understand this correctly. Even though it's part of the compact that we have. On one end, it's approved on one end, but on this end, it's not approved?
IHS, yeah, it's in, water and sewer sanitation is in our compact, and it is an IHS function, but they have rejected, as far as I know, I think there's one tribe that was trying to push it. Is that correct, Jeff?
Yeah, I think there's been one or two tribes that have sought 105L lease for water sewer facilities. I don't think it's been something that IHS has funded so far. It's a little bit unique because there's some unique funding streams for the water and sewer as well. So you know, I guess my position is that this should be and is fundable under 105L. And I think we have a little bit more consultation to do with IHS to get them there, but I do think there's also a bigger question of, unlike other facilities, there's significant funding for large projects on the IHS side, like the water tower, like the wastewater ponds, and we certainly don't want to take minimal 105L leasing and lose those significant pots of funding. So I think there's a question about, you know, making sure that we're not taking 105L funds and losing more funds in the end. So that's kind of where we're at. So we're just exploring those options with IHS right now.
So simply put, it's a negotiation process.
Mhm.
Even though there's a rejection, we still push back and keep negotiating why
Yeah.
and justification of why this should be covered.
Yeah, because their initial one is that we submitted for it, and they said we don't fund water and sewer facilities. And that's where it was at, because we circled back trying to get the maximum money in now. And so it's kind of one of our to-do items. And then as we were going along, we kind of realized, well, if we can't get, you know, because we got significant amount of money for the ponds and the water tower, you know, it was a couple $1 million, and we're only gonna get like 200,000 a year for those facilities, because once you negotiate the 105Ls, you can't ask them for money for those buildings then. So we don't want to give that up. You know, we want to have that opportunity to make those big repairs and stuff. So, you know, it's more of learning and negotiating and stuff.
My question is that, you know, if you have a plan A, B, and C, if this isn't approved, what do we do then? And what can we do, you know, from a travel standpoint?
We've had, what, 2 or 3 conversations with IHS, but it's kind of, you know, we needed to circle back, I think, and have more internal discussion and decide if we want to do a final offer. A final offer doesn't mean that we have to take it if they get it to us, correct, Jeff?
No, it doesn't. It just means that they have to put their reasoning in writing. That's really what the final offer is. So right now, council, we're in what I would call just still informal discussions with IHS, which is really helpful because it doesn't take a lot of time and it doesn't take a lot of resources. If after those informal discussions, the answer is no, these facilities aren't fundable, we would then, you know, we could do a final offer. We'd probably just take that back to you all as council to make a final decision on whether to do it. But that would mean that they would then have to put their rejection in writing. And once they do that, basically we have the ability to litigate it from there if we disagreed. So it's a process of forcing them to put their reasoning in writing. And then we would have further remedies that obviously we would talk about and get council's direction on before we explored them. So we're not anywhere near that point yet. But those are all options that we could pursue.
Jeff, I would like to see, if whatever happened to other tribes that went down this road before us, if they did, and if they, made the final, letter or whatever, and it wasn't approved, and then what happened? If you could find, anything to relate to that, that'd be great.
Yeah, if we can identify those tribes, we can make some requests from them. IHS is they're often reluctant to provide any of their final information for other tribes to us. But yeah, that's a fair point. And if we can identify those other tribes, I don't think the list is long. I think like Kim has mentioned in the past, Boyce Ford is really a leader in the 105L space and is often making these arguments and things either for the first time or, when there's maybe been at most one or two other tribes doing it, but it's definitely something that we can explore.
Thank you.
So then, the question is what, I can get this to show up better. So I'm gonna stop sharing now, and I'll just read what eligible expenses are for 105L. And then my recommendation of, now that the first round of BIA funds have come in. So, there's what's called compensation elements A through H that you can negotiate. There's different ways of negotiating. So we did what was called the fair market value lease negotiation, and that covered the cost of the building and operating expenses. So basically, rent, we can't negotiate for depreciation because but we can't negotiate depreciation reimbursement because we did the fair market value, and also contributions to a reserve. We can't negotiate extra. So we could do rent, principal and interest, water, sewage, electric, fuel, insurance, building maintenance and supervision and custodial, salaries and supplies, pest control, site maintenance, trash and medical waste removal, fire protection and fire and equipment, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, elevators, boilers. This is monitoring and prevention maintenance, fire system safety, security systems, roofs, foundation, walls, floors. There's unscheduled maintenance, there's scheduled maintenance, security services, management fees for maintenance salaries and maintenance materials, repairs to buildings and equipment that are part of the building. So like a copier, it's a piece of equipment, it's not part of the building. Is not allowed. Alterations to meet needs and other reasonable expenses. Those are called compensation elements A through H. So that's how we would set up our budgets. So I'm going to go through my recommendation now. So you kind of have a history, and it's a significant amount of money, and we needed to design it. The need to design it for the accounting purposes. So over the past several years, Boyce Fort staff has worked to secure the funds. Because of limited federal staff to negotiate the leases, there's a lag time because on IHS side, there's like 2 people, and on the BIA, I think, are they still at 2? Because then they had gotten an extra person and she moved on, and then the federal hiring freeze. So it's really bogged down at the federal level. And so we need to, because they're significant, we need to structure the financial statements and manage these funds effectively. So the recommendation, and this is how IHS funds are set up too. So like all IHS is in one fund with sub-departments. So all the BIA 105L funds will go into one fund with sub-departments for each building. The level of sub-department is negotiated for buildings. We seek by a combination method of triple net lease or compensation. We work on that. I have the fund number and their departments listed, which we don't need to read out front. So I'm recommending that 10% annually of the BIA funds be set aside for 2 different reserves. 5% for a building replacement reserve. So for the 2023 funds, that would be $98,845. And then 5% for emergency repairs. And then to seek permission to open CDs for these 2 amounts as it grows. If the money grows more, we would look at a longer investment strategy. Right now it's small enough to just start with CDs, but we would look at further investments with an investment committee to maximize growth for the organization. So then what we need to do in accounting, and I didn't have time to figure out the total amounts that we'll be reclassing, is I have a list of which funds that we'll be reclassing expenses from 24 and 25, which would free up either money for and would be reduce of assistance from the tribal council. You remember, because when we passed the budget, you guys said that we had to reclass those expenses. Or if it's was paid out of a grant, or actually like the BIA compact dollars, it would leave more money for those programs to provide services.
Now, what you just said, when you're getting these monies back and then over the next, from the last 2 years or so, and this money does come in, and they're gonna reclassify or reclass the expenses, so the 105L money comes in, you're taking all the grant monies that was used, putting it back out. How does that affect the audits?
Okay, so we're working on the 23 audit, and so that's why we're doing 24 and 25. And then going forward, though, it will be the expenses will be budgeted and paid directly out of the 105L funds and not out of doing all this reclassing. This is because you had given me a directive when we passed the budget that we had to do this. It's just more work for accounting at this point. And if it was out of a specific grant and it's closed, we can't reclass.
Okay, reclass it.
No. And so all the funds that I have identified are either considered what are called tribal funds or self-governance compact funds, and we're not crossing an audit in the closed audit period or
Okay.
in a period we're working on. And so I'm recommending that the executive director will have oversight of the funds as it is a cross cut from several funds and programs and buildings. This mirrors how IHS our HHS funds are done. And then I'm recommending a comprehensive list of deferred maintenance should be developed and maintained, and annually rank those items by risk to do your capital improvement budget. Because some are basically maybe severe risks, like might be a threat to severe property damage or health or safety, versus some cosmetic things, you kind of rank it out. But it will have input there'll be a committee and to rank it, and they'll have input from those programs that are in those buildings. So it isn't one person making that decision, it's a committee and they make a recommendation and rank it. And then they develop a capital budget to be worked on. So each pot of money does not have to be spent exactly on each building. So collectively, it's a pot of money that's managed to meet the needs of the tribe. And then we have the investment. It's not going to be a 5% like reserve for each one of those leases. It's an aggregate. And each building is in a different stage of use and condition, so.
If it's done like that, and you're putting the money that's freed up, and putting it aside for like future repairs and all that, and is it restricted more or less? With 105L, and I know the money's being freed up.
It depends on which pot of money we freed up. So because we're going to be making reserves here, and there's the emergency repair, and then there's the building replacement. It would be, I would say, it's probably a little bit more flexible than other dollars.
No, what this
But it stays kind of on those buildings and for those, so BIA kind of stays with the BIA functions. It's questionable if it gets into other stuff, it just hasn't been clearly defined yet.
Now, with this 105L money that's coming in, is the tribal government able to take out the indirect cost out of it
Yes.
to the full?
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, so as we can be pulling some of the expenses out of indirect cost and actually putting them in directly to those funds, so like a maintenance salary, if, you know, and that, so that has a double impact. They're going to be paying indirect cost on that salary, but also is reducing our pool that we're trying to cover. So both will have an impact to bring down the indirect cost rate.
I really, we're
I-
going a little bit long on this,
Yeah, I
Kim,
know.
which is, we're
Yeah,
getting a little bit off track, but in essence, this is a more organized and structured way
yep.
to handle,
Mhm.
what was it, the capital, like a capital improvement plan or a capital for each building,
Yeah.
capital plan. Budgeting that out. So it's more of an organized way to look at things
Mhm.
rather than reactive.
Mhm.
Oh, this is failing, let's fix this. This is failing, let's fix that, at a reactionary point. So you take that comprehensive plan annually and look at everything, or I don't know if it's annual or biannual or whatever. And then a committee looks at that along with the maintenance director, project manager, and senior management for all buildings. So
Yeah.
it's a better structured way of looking at things and fixing things ahead of time and keeping on track rather than reactionary going only when something breaks down
Mhm.
at certain times. And
Yeah,
well, that's what that is.
yeah, it's planning and stuff. So my, basically I'm asking for the recommendation, approval of the three biggest things I'm looking for is to one fund the CDs, to open CDs for the investment, and that, there's basically the executive director, and then she can delegate as needed to be the overall, the final manager of the funds.
Thanks for that summary.
Well,
That's a long
that's a lot.
explanation.
Yeah.
Thanks. But in summary, that's what you want.
Mhm. It's a recommendation, and I don't know if you want to approve moving forward with that, those three parts of that.
Jeff, do we need to put that in a resolution or do we just approve it?
It doesn't need to be in a resolution. I don't know, Kim, if with respect to the CDs, if the banks want any specific information in a resolution, have you talked about that?
No, usually I just need to provide meeting minutes that says they move to approve opening CDs.
Okay, yeah, I would just, no resolutions needed. I would just be clear about and maybe break them apart into clear motions, so it's reflected in the minutes.
So I'll move to approve Kim's recommendation for BIA SG 105L funds set at Boysford.
I'll second.
Moved by Robert, second by Tara. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried. That's the first one.
Yep, so then the second thing I had on the agenda was just the approval for the chair to sign the request for the 26 BIA 105L lease. That's-
This first one, didn't we have three things we were gonna do?
Oh, yeah. The first one was the combined all one fund. Second was the executive director, and the third was the opening of the two CDs. I don't know if I said it in the same order, but
Did we do that first one, the combining of the funds?
well,
I was more or less approving
This one.
her thing. No, this whole recommendation, what's attached to the agenda request. She has it all summarized in, right there. And it's what, 3 pages? I know it covers the CDs is in there under number 3. I mean, I thought that was all of it. and I'm not sure. Is that all of it?
mhm.
That's what I was approving, is what she has attached to the agenda request.
No worries. I was just getting some clarification. I thought we were gonna get all three of them in laid out for the meeting minutes, but
I think if I had usually the bank, if I attach the attachment with it, they would accept that.
all right, so we're gonna move on to B then.
Okay, is that the BIA renewal then?
Authorization for the chair to sign BIA. I would thought Robert was saying that with the first one here. I just thought we were gonna do the three, right? Yeah. Or did I not ask for all in favor? Okay, yeah. Motion. All right. Authorization for chair to sign BIA for 105L renewal request for fiscal year 2026. And all this is just a request that we have to do every year. So it's nothing new or nothing major.
Which ones will you have to amend? I'm
We're,
thinking the DNR garage or Boysport DNR.
Now, on here, the only one we're
Public
changing
Works?
up is, so the lease renewals, so 1 through 10 are being renewed as the same with no changes. And then, number 11 is the RTG building here, because we are going to negotiate for the principal and interest.
No, I understand that this is for now,
Uh-huh.
but you're gonna come to us again when these new buildings come up in a year
Oh,
or
yeah.
2 or whatever, so.
This will be in.
So this will be adjusted again,
Yeah,
probably next year.
yeah, it'll be ongoing.
With all these new buildings coming up, it's gonna be.
Yep.
But this is for the 2026 year. Okay.
Yeah.
Lots of work.
Whoops.
It is. But it's
I'll
well
move to
worth it.
approve.
Move to approve.
Moved by Robert,
Second.
second by Tara. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried. We are gonna take a small break here before we continue on to Morgan. Thank you, Kim, for joining us today. Much appreciated. Yep, it's be 10-minute break here. And then when we come back, Morgan will be joining us. Should be next on the agenda. Thank you, Morgan, for holding on. A recess for 10 minutes. Sorry for the delay. We're going to resume the meeting. It's 10:12 a.m. And next on the agenda, we have Morgan Olson joining us online. She's going to be presenting about the State of Minnesota Joint Powers Agreement for consulting services from the band at Lake Vermilion and the Sudan Underground Mine State Park Project. Hi, Morgan. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Good. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us.
I'm also here with Jalen Strong, and then I have some guests from the DNR, Melinda Anderson and James Clark, who are gonna help me kind of explain the background of this project. But I'll give a little introduction first. So the DNR, through the Lake Vermilion-Soudan Underground Mine State Park, wishes to collaborate on a project to create a recreational and educational trail center for people to visit while at the park. And for some background information on this project, I'm going to hand it over to Melinda and James. And if possible, could we get the slides up on the screen? Or I can share my screen if you need. Oh, there we go.
Yep, I can present.
Can everybody see our slide?
There it is. Now we can see it. Thank you.
Perfect.
Aning, good morning. Aning ikinawiya namuka jamoendan sama mabiyajayang ama debakmanang ozona kodu kinijna kanagu namuka jamatago sama jababi ndigayan ima mawanjiting gui winda mawanem wa iji no king ma Jigabig, Lake Vermilion State Park is in Akade. Good morning, Council. My name is James Clark. I'm the Ojibwe Relations Liaison. I've had the pleasure of meeting some of you, and for those that I have not yet, good morning. And I look forward to our consultation just in a little over a month's time. And I will pass it off to Melinda.
Morning, thank you. Melinda Anderson. I'm with the Minnesota DNR. I'm a development consultant out of St. Paul. So I'm working on various Vermilion projects, and this is one that I'm very excited about. So thank you for having us. So Lake Vermilion-Soudan Underground Mine, Morgan went over what we're trying to do here. So I'm going to give you some background on this partnership that we're looking forward to, and some background on the park as it exists right now, and kind of what's been done to this point and what we're hoping to continue with. So Lake Vermilion, there's a lot going on right there that we've already done. We obtained the land in about 2012 is when everything went through. So since then, we've been going through various iterations of how we can put things on the land, how the land what it can take, what it can handle. We've got like the Matson Bay camp is going to go in now. So some of the stuff that's in the blue are proposed projects are not done yet. The stuff in the pink are projects that already are on the site, on the land, or we're a little bit further in development with. So, I mean, we're going to be talking up in that Cable Bay type corner up in the far northeast, where we've got that lodge, Lake Lodge and phase 1 hiking trails. So we do have some trails in there now. The idea is that we will be providing some more trails to get to that location. There's camper cabins nearby. There's also the Vermilion Ridge Campground over there as well. Then on the other side, we are currently working on a state recreation area within the state park. There's trails that are Pyrite Campground, and it's an OHV campground that is wrapping up as we speak. So, I mean, I think construction will be done in the next month or two. So we're putting more infrastructure in there, and currently we really don't have a gathering place for people to go to. We have the Lake Vermilion or the Sudan Underground Mine office, not real conducive to having a lot of people stop in there, but there is also like the mine tours and there's some interpretive stuff over there. We just need to get some stuff on the other side. So we just need that focal point. So in 2014, we went through and did a suitability mapping. So a lot of this was started just based on GIS layers, based on any sort of resource assessment that we were able to do. We did some cultural resource, some historic district studies, making sure we had the proper setbacks and buffers, existing infrastructure that was there, some plant communities, those natural resources, working with the historic society and getting what was already on the land, what was done with the land, putting it onto this map and just giving us a starting point, a kicking off point to say, okay, these are the places that are suitable for building. These are the places that aren't, so that we could actually go out there and field truth it. Knowing, you know, what you do on a computer, what you put on a map doesn't really get you very far. So it's really just going out there to make sure that that analysis that we've looked at is correct. So just really key points on getting out there. We've spent a lot of time on the ground trying to make sure that we're looking at the right spots. So the Lake Lodge considerations, the site that we're actually looking at here, again, this was up in kind of that northeast corner of it, Armstrong Bay, Matson Bay area. We know we've got some sensitive areas around there. There is fish spawning habitat as well. So we've really been leery on going right on the shore there. There's a lot of thin soils, you know, not buildable, not constructible. We currently have a day use area that was constructed a few years back, and that's that Armstrong Bay day use area. So trying to not go onto that area. We do have a water treatment building at the water line that goes into Lake Vermilion at this point. And so that disturbed area is really where we're focusing on now. We're not going to take down, you know, we're not going to ruin any other spots in there. So we just want to work on that existing area. This is the one that we had walked, I believe, in earlier this year. And we went from Armstrong Bay day use to past the water treatment building. And it was kind of determined on site that, you know, with Randy Morgan, some archaeologists, some resource staff, park staff, that this site did make sense as to where we should be developing this new trail center. Here are some views of the Lake Lodge site and from the Lake Lodge site. So upper left, that's kind of at the water treatment building and looking out to the lake. So, I mean, that clearing is from that water line construction that's still there. We're still going to have to utilize that. So, I mean, we're looking at how we can incorporate this new building with the existing infrastructure and still making everything function. On the upper right, that really is the water treatment building that is there now as it sits. And then that's pretty much the site that we're going to be putting the new building on. And then this is looking, you know, from the water towards the shore. It's not looking directly at, I think off to the right of the pictures, kind of more where we would put that treatment building. But being aware of some of those sensitive areas there and staying away from them. So far at this point, this is kind of where we're at with what the building, we have a building program that they've put together where we're working on the pre-design report so far. This is really, it's the program versus the design. So, I mean, we're developing more the square footage, kind of how things are going to work together, how those rooms are going to work together, but not necessarily like the exact footprint. It's really an idea so that we can focus our intentions and make everybody's time really worthwhile by saying, yes, we have a start. Now we want to figure out how we want to fill this space, how we want this space to interact, and how we want to interact with this space. So this is our idea on, you know, the green spaces are all going to be public spaces. The red space is more that, you know, maintenance facility stuff that we need, but we aren't necessarily opening up to anybody. And then we'll have some various, not necessarily office. We won't have anybody housed there all the time, but having that office space available. And then just some storage, you know, this, again, it's a bubble diagram. This is what we're starting with, but now we are really looking for some more input. So a couple of the examples that we've looked at. Glendalough Trail Center and Bearhead Trail Center are two that we've done recently. The idea here is just to get an idea of how that space is going to work out, how that space is going to fit together. The square footages are a little bit less than what we're proposing right now at Vermilion, but it's a start on it. So I don't know, Bearhead's not too far. So if that's something that anybody's looked at, just take a peek at, get an idea of some of those open areas, what they would be used for, how they would feel, you know, too small, too big, just getting a plan for what we would then translate over to Vermilion, the North Lodge or Lake Lodge. Another one that we have also collaborated on, this was a few years back, but Grand Portage Visitor Center. So this one, we worked with the band for more of a design example. So, I mean, I've focused more on the inside of the building versus the outside, but it was a close collaboration for the entire thing. But this is a lot of the stuff that we're looking for, is kind of just seeing our site as a continuation of the museum, you know, not trying to replicate anything that's there, but working with the ideas that are at the museum that can kind of feed into each other, provide that acknowledgement, making sure that we have a connection and a tie-in, but not, again, not duplicating anything that is at one or the other. So this is our site visit that I talked about earlier, where we walked from Armstrong Bay and then out past the water treatment building to kind of just get a lay of the land, see field truth, essentially, all of those maps that we had put together. So part of this site visit, we did do some cultural sensitivity training that Randy had put on. I think that was about a half day. So it was good for us to get together and just understand as much as we could a lot of that stuff. We are currently now in the process of doing that JPA. So Morgan and I have been working pretty tight on trying to figure out understanding what's going to go into that and what we can do to make this really work out. So I know she's going to get into that later, but we're in progress on that. And then really what we're looking for is just overall design collaboration on the buildings and the site, and monitoring when we start construction on the site, and just making sure that we all are happy with the product at the end of this. So really, really hoping for that. Looking forward to that.
One of the things I just wanted to add counsel to is, since I've been officially with the DNR for a year and a day, and we've really, you know, in the past year that I've been here, but also from what I've heard in the past several years, we've been truly moving within our Parks and Trails division to ensure that tribal nations are a part of every step of the way. We're really looking for to make sure that voices, thoughts, expertise, both of cultural knowledge and of best practice, you know, within the field knowledge is really at the forefront of a lot of the projects that we're doing. And so we just thank the time that the Boys for THPO staff has been able to expend already, and we're looking forward to not only this project, but we also have another few projects in the fire that we're very thankful to have their collaboration and their knowledge in as well. So just wanted to put that acknowledgement out there. So miigwech.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us today. It's pretty exciting to see the project coming together, and I'm excited to hear about the updates that Morgan's going to be able to bring to us. I do appreciate the DNR coming today, and just want to say thank you. Is there any questions from council?
Yes. I was on the impression that they were here to do something with the band, with the heritage center, rather than a building.
So that this one was, yeah, specific to, we had gone out to the Heritage Center. That was our initial look at things. But yeah, this one is going to be for a site at the Lake Vermilion-Soudan Underground Mine State Park. So just a trail center.
Does that answer your question, Vice Chair?
Maybe
And-
for excuse me, maybe for clarification purposes, Morgan can restate what her request is with this.
Yeah, of course. So we wish to collaborate with the DNR on this project, just to get voice for its voice and ideas into what this Lake Lodge will end up being. So me and Jalen are on the JPA, and we're going to put our input into this Lake Lodge.
So almost a better, I would like to summarize it a little bit differently. We're looking to see if we can get approval from the council to sign on to a joint powers agreement with the Minnesota DNR in order to allow Boys Ford staff to participate in collaboration of the building of this lodge. And in return, Boys Fort will receive payment for our time. And so it won't be any cost to the band. It'll be kind of like it'll be covered for a lot of our expenses that we would otherwise incur, I guess, if throughout participation. And so this project itself is going to be a multi-year project, and just making sure that we have those things in place to make sure that Boys Ford is able to receive compensation for our efforts within the building of this lodge.
I see what you mean, Jalen. I just, I'm kind of surprised too. I read through this and it doesn't quite say, that we were going to, it just says the joint powers agreement. It was pitched last meeting, just for some work here and there, Morgan and maybe yourself or staff at Heritage Center. Now this has moved into a bigger relationship. Not that we are benefiting, not that we are expending any money for this project ourselves. But a little bit, maybe a pre-meeting to go over all of this stuff would have helped the council endorse this program a little bit better. I read through everything. It looks like a good project. I just have to say, and Jalen, you probably know this as a director and within Boysport here, it's a good thing to team up with Minnesota DNR. And we are benefiting, the Heritage Center is benefiting. But there's that looming government to government relationship that I am getting a little bit hesitant over. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, I believe so. And I guess Morgan can explain a little bit more, but we're just kind of a small portion of the planning team for this. And I think it was the DNR that had approached myself, basically asking if we can get Boys Fort input on this lodge that they were planning on building. And whenever Randy got involved, Morgan was gracious enough to step in as well. At that point in time, I didn't really have the capacity, and at this point in time, I still don't quite have the full capacity to always be on. And so that's mainly the reason why Morgan's kind of one of our main contacts through Boys Fort within this project specifically.
Okay, yeah, I know this is a smaller portion of what, and I will approve this. I think it's a good idea. Hopefully, hopefully this helps us with the government to government relationship with Minnesota DNR. Because as you know, consultation with statute 1065 is not happening with the Minnesota DNR. So they're not honoring that statute. And they're also not quite helping us with our bear issue. These are bigger things that I'm thinking about at a council level and a government to government relationship. And I know I don't want it to hinder your project here, but when the DNR wants something from the band, we ought to think about the bigger items that that we want, that government to government relationship and how that should be happening. That's what I think. Thank you, but I approve. I like this project. Hopefully it'll, blend us a little bit more well, and the DNR would consider us in more of a government to government relationship since we're willing to help them out with this. Thank you.
Before we go into the vote, could I go over the JPA? Just overview it a little bit.
Sure enough.
Okay, sounds good. I'll share my screen here. This one?
Yep.
Okay.
Summarize that.
Okay. So I'm just gonna do a short summary. I know you guys have the full JPA, including A and B portions. So this project will begin September 5th, 2025, or the date that the state obtains all required signatures, whichever is latter. The project is projected to end on June 30th, 2030. So it's quite a long project, or until all obligations have been fulfilled, whichever occurs first. So for payment, there's a few things that the band will have to provide, and as the lead, I'll be providing these services. The state will be paying per deliverable for services performed by the band. They're laid out in Exhibit B, itemized costs based on task numbers and phases. The total obligation of the state under this agreement will not exceed $52,674.52. So the authorized representatives on this project are Miranda Anderson, who's the development consultant for the DNR. I'm taking the lead on this project. I'm the tribal archivist. And then Jalen is also a tribal representative, so he'll be able to help when he's able to, when he has the capacity. He's the Heritage Center Director in THPO. And then I'm just gonna go over Exhibit A real quick. Exhibit B kind of goes off of what Exhibit A is, except for it goes more into budgeting, which you guys can look over if you want. So the procurement overview and goals, the band shall act as a consultant in order to assist with the design and construction administration of a new multi-use structures and surrounding amenities at Lake Vermilion-Soudan Underground Mine State Park. And the tribal representatives phases of task and deliverables include the kickoff meeting, which has already occurred, the site assessment and pre-design phase, which has also already occurred. But the schematic design phase is in action, I believe. And then the design development phase will be in the future. And then the construction documentation phase and construction phase will also be in the future. And for each of these phases, again, we have deliverables and associated costs with that.
My cost of payment.
Oh yeah, payment. I'm sorry.
I had a question under the JPA. You have the band representatives as Jalen and yourself, Morgan. The only thing I have a question about is under Jalen, it does mention or his successor. Would they be able to add that under your title just in case, you know, or does this carry over to the next tribal archivist? If, in case you do move on, you know, that's what I'm wondering, because it does say under Jalen Strong or his successor. I'm just wondering if that applies for your position also.
I'm not sure as I kind of I wasn't originally involved in this project. I kind of took it on for just as needed kind of tasks. So maybe Melinda will be able to answer this a little bit better.
Yes, thank you. We can certainly add that to the language and just put as his or her successor.
Much appreciated. I just didn't want this to be a contract exclusively for somebody not in the position anymore.
Nope, that's a good point. Thank you, Chairman.
So I think that's it. You guys can look through the JPA more, and I believe the slides are available for you guys to look at more in depth. And I want to say miigwech to Melinda and James again. And thank you for your time as well.
Which, Morgan?
Thing I have a problem with is that underneath number 5, where it talks about assignment, amendments, waiver, and contract complete. 5.1 assignment. The band may neither assign nor transfer any rights or obligations under this agreement without the prior consent of the state and a fully executed assignment agreement executed and approved by the authorized parties or their successors. To me, that's infringing upon our sovereignty as a band, and I have a problem with that. Thank you. So, I'll be voting against it. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. And that's something I know we've had, Morgan has had consultation on this on her end, right? And then I know we've had our attorneys look at it too, but that's something 5.1. We can definitely revisit that one and see where we're at with that.
I'm thinking maybe we table this. Do you see why we would probably want to have a meeting about it before and then present, you know, at an RTC meeting? So we could get all of this hashed out. I do see that the tribal attorney did look at the contract on 6/4/2025. So I don't know. I just wanted to make note of that, and we could hash all these items out and talk before. It's just better to do that than send this along the way it did. I know you guys are in a hurry and you want to meet your goals. Sounds like a very good project, but a little heads up would have been a little more appropriate. Sorry.
And to answer Shane's too, I was worried about the same thing, you know, I was worried that But I did scroll down and I did see that that tribal sovereignty section is included on here on page 304, where it says that the state may not require the band to deny its sovereignty as a requirement or condition of an agreement with a state. I think that that's in there.
I believe that was part of Jeff's revisions. We kind of had a long revision process with this JPA. It started with Randy and we sent it back and forth a few times with Jeff, but this is what we came up with. So yeah, if we need to go back and change some things, we can surely do that.
Sounds good. I do think that there is a couple concerns that were brought up, so I think we're gonna table the vote for it for now, but you know, I am interested and I think we just have some concerns that need to be addressed before we move forward on this. So, I know Shane had mentioned he would vote no, so I think that we just need to have some more discussion to make sure that, you know, we're fully aware of the vote that we want to make and, you know, he might change my mind, so, and I might be able to change his. So we're gonna talk about it for a little bit, not here. We're gonna table this for further discussion and then, once everything's all clarified, then we can get back to it. It shouldn't.
Move to table.
A motion to table, by Shane. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Robert. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? He's on it. Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today.
And then if you can all get together with our executive director, Miranda Lilya, and let's schedule a meeting really quick, even if it's online or, you know, something like that. So we could hash out these items and our attorney, and if your attorney needs to be on there. So let's get this all straightened out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Which for joining us today is Melinda and James.
Yes, sir.
And I got it. All right. All right.
And I
All right.
just wanted to say thank you to the council for your time. I'm very happy to note we will have a consultation meeting on October 29th, I believe, next month. So I'm definitely looking forward to that building of our relationship.
It's right at the end of this month, September 29th.
October.
Is it? Okay. That's a long ways away. We need to meet about this beforehand.
And thank you, council, too. I just want to say thanks for, going through the slides too, and just getting an idea of what we're looking at. So look forward to meeting pretty soon here on this and the rest of that. So thank you for your time.
Perfect. Much appreciated. Thank you for joining us today.
Which
All right. Next up on the agenda, we have Miranda. Oh, I'm skipped one. Terry Defoe today. Just skipped. It looks like she's going to be talking to us about a mutual aid agreement for public health and human services and the use of resources, including personnel and equipment. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today, Terry.
Hey, everybody. Hi, I'm Terry Defoe. I'm the Community Wellness Program Manager. I'm presenting the mutual aid agreement for public health and human practices and use of resources, including personnel. It's a MOU between 6 counties and then the respective tribes that they encompass. This has been in the works for a while prior to me coming on, and then Terry Morrison isn't available at the moment. So this was presented to me. It was reviewed by Jeff in August. Yep. And so expedite any of our needs if we had a public health emergency or an imminent threat of an illness or a health condition that poses a health that often requires immediate response and resources. Of late 19. And prior to that was the swine flu. So it would address significant outbreaks or infectious diseases, bioterroristic attacks, or natural disasters, floods, hurricanes, or tornadoes. Lead to health crises due to injuries, contamination, or displacement. So what it allows is access to emergency funds or resources with our local governments, the participating counties. So we have, and it waives certain regulations to facilitate rapid response, coordination, local and tribal health agencies to manage the crisis effectively and efficiently. So this would include emergency support functions, with the local counties, essential items, food, water, and medical management, PPE, and other necessities to ensure safety and effective response. Help with running response, so incident command systems, and then we'd receive properly trained personnel, and then we would be in charge of this, and we would be in charge of it until the event is over.
It's pretty interesting. Is there anything like this going on right now?
No, I think this is the first.
Nice.
Yep, and they've done really good at it's taken a long time to develop because of so many entities involved. And so I started in April and they were approaching the final draft, which had taken, I think, a few years to get to, which this is the final one in. And everything in it was by, and then we're ramping up our incident command system trainings too. As you know, we're having a training in October. And so I believe this is in the best interest of the tribe to sign, because we would get immediate and effective response from counties.
Oh, it was beneficial. It's hard to believe that it took so long to
Yeah.
put this together.
And that we
but
haven't had one prior.
And we didn't have one, right?
So is there gonna be a, how are you gonna send this out when we authorize Carlos to sign?
We just turn it
they're gonna
into
be
our,
just read it through all the lands, Voice Fort, Fond du Lac, Grand Portage, Leech Lake. Or anything official like a signing. Or whatever, since it's the first that's gonna be happening. And I just have a really quick, that's one question. And then my second question is, since all the other bands are public law and we're public law, non-public law 280. Does that interfere? Does that show any jurisdictional issues, or is that addressed in the document? You know, the sharing of services for you, that's great, but if there's anything with our police department or anything like that, is there already MOU with St. Louis County to cover that on our end?
that would be a Jeff question.
Straight law enforcement, MOU, whole different one. If we wanted to do it, MOU with law enforcement, I don't think this would cover.
So this would be only
Public health and
public
human.
health.
Yep.
There we go. Cool. That answered it.
One quick question, Terry. At what point is this in effect then? Is that once all of the counties and chairs sign? That it would be effective?
I'm not sure. Once I get it back to, if it's signed, and I'll get it back to our representative, or that sent it to me was Scott Lesnau with county. And so that, I was looking at it, I'm like, how are they gonna know everybody signed it, right? For
Right.
one. And, so I was given this. And it had been headed up by Terry, for years. So I only recently received this to present to you. So that would be, I could ask Scott and see, is it effective on the day that it's signed? Or does everybody have to sign? I think it's just respective to us. My guess is that it would be in agreement with say we had emergency, Friday. And we had this signed. I think it would be in effect for that emergency, the date we signed. Of course, I'll confirm.
I can answer that too, real quick, if you don't mind. This is Jeff. Sorry, I was just looking at the term. This is sort of it's structured in a way where if two parties sign it but the others don't, then there's a mutual aid between those two. So as soon as Bois Forte signs, that mutual aid agreement's in place for any of the other parties that have signed. And then so it sort of is triggered right away, and then anyone who adds on from there is, sort of joins the mutual aid agreement as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Jeff.
Seems like it'd be beneficial for us to sign this agreement, be in the best interest of the public, providing the services and making sure mutual aid is available.
Do you know if the other bands are already on board, or do you have an inkling of if this is gonna go through or when?
I know that, in working with all of the counties, that they've all referred to their lawyers. And that's why it took so long, is because everybody was coming to an agreement about it. So I only know about our agreement.
And I see it's a duration of 3 years from date of execution. So I think this would be a good idea. And then follow up would be if there's any bands that do not, let us know if they won't sign, just keep us up to date on what's happening and the results of everything, so that we know as a band who we're working with, and if there's anybody that has not signed on, then our council probably could ask why or what's going on. Sounds good, though. Very good.
I can make a note of that.
I have a question under Article 14, compliance. It says participating parties shall comply with applicable federal, tribal, state, and local statutes, regulations, rules, and ordinances enforced or hereinafter enacted. Now, with that being said, can St. Louis County come in here and say, we want to see this and this and this?
We're in charge of the incident. We retain.
Jeff,
No, they couldn't do that. The key term in that article is applicable. So this just clarifies that, if there's applicable band law and rules, the band's following those, but there's no ability for the county to enforce those against the band. This just acknowledges that each of the jurisdictions will have different rules. And that gets to Tara's question about PL 280. Even the tribes might have different rules that they might be subject to, and they're responsible for complying with them on their own, but no one's forcing another party to comply with them. Does that answer your question, Shane?
Yes, it does. I just thought I want to make sure that, they're not trying to find a loophole or create a loophole in our sovereignty as a band, as a tribe. Thank you.
Yep, that's fair. And I actually reviewed this like a year ago, and we made meaningful changes to ensure no waiver of immunity, to clarify that, you know, the band's data that's generated pursuant to this agreement is all subject to the band's policies and laws on data sovereignty and not, you know, county or state laws. So we made some meaningful updates that were reflected in here that, you know, ensures tribal sovereignty and that the band is sort of in the driver's seat when it comes to its actions.
If there aren't any questions, I would like to move to approve the mutual aid agreement for public health and human services and the use of resources, including personnel and equipment.
Do we have a motion on the floor? Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Robert. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried. Thank you, Terry.
Be good. Thank you.
Before we move on to Miranda, she's next on the agenda item. Just wanted to make the community aware that every Wednesday volleyball is starting up at the Net Lake School Gym. But then right after that, we also have a volleyball tournament on the 20th. So in 3 days in the Net Lake Gym, just contact Earl Villebrun. We have a volleyball tournament on the 20th. But you can get ready starting tonight at 6 o'clock at the Net Lake Gym. Miranda, did you have any items on the agenda?
Nothing other than the statement regarding the bear season. So before I read the statement that was provided by the Conservation Committee and the Natural Resources Department, I would like to let the audience know that the latest wild rice update is available on the Bois Forte Reservation Tribal Government website. So please visit boisfort.com to read that update if you're interested. And so here's the statement provided by Natural Resources Director Chris Holm this morning, in collaboration with the Conservation Committee. In a quarterly meeting of the Bois Forte Conservation Committee on July 23rd, 2025, a quorum present, the committee motioned and approved a 2025 bear hunting season at Bois Forte with a vote of 6-0-0. Bear hunting is an approved practice defined in the Bois Forte Council Resolution number 44-83, Section 3401C, certified on September 15th, 1982 at Nut Lake, Minnesota. Bear hunting was approved by the committee members after considerable, thoughtful debate and discussion. Bear hunting is viewed as the band's sole management option presently available to address an increasing need for community safety. Community safety from bear encounter is a widespread and growing concern, as evidenced by the growing number of community member assistance calls received by DNR officers over spring, summer, and fall each year. As food habituated bears with reduced fear of humans increasingly come to the community, so does the potential for direct, dangerous contact. The Bois Forte Conservation Committee is also notably concerned about continued observed decreases in the reservation deer herd, which to considerable extent is being influenced by bear, which feed on deer fawns in the spring. The committee gave thoughtful discussion to both the ecological and cultural aspects of this action. The decision was not easy. The committee is unanimously upset that mistreatment of bear by a neighboring organization which actively feeds the bears cannot be resolved via cooperative agreement or through legislative processes. However, Bois Forte public safety and preservation of the band's other wildlife sustenance resources is paramount and must be sustained. The committee met with the Bois Forte Tribal Council and discussed this effort, and council members present expressed support for this effort. The committee instructed Bois Forte conservation officers to provide proper processes by which hunting is carried out. Hunting processes follow those currently used by other reservations in northern Minnesota. The committee reviewed and approved the processes. A fall bear hunting season is established to occur between September 1, 2025 and October 19, 2025. A spring bear hunt season is also planned, but dates for spring season have not yet been established. A lottery application must be filed, and persons assigned a tag must follow all Bois Forte Band of Chippewa tribal and conservation codes. Hunt zones are set in predetermined areas. Bois Forte conservation officers establish hunters at sites and monitor hunting activity. The hunt is not guided, as the Conservation Committee did not want to monetize the process in that way. Hunters chosen for lottery tag must pay a hunting permit fee and must likewise purchase a parking permit and recreational vehicle permit. Hunters chosen for lottery must attend a mandatory orientation meeting conducted by Bois Forte conservation officers. Yearly harvest details will be published upon completion of the seasons. The committee approved these rules and apologizes for slow time incurred in publishing notification and rules. Steps have been taken and process is being developed to allow more timely rollout of information from the Conservation Committee in the future. End of statement.
Just for clarification, we were down at the Twin City Urban Office last Thursday, and that's when I learned about the bear hunt. And during that time, after that, actually, I asked for a discussion to be put on the Monday morning meeting agenda with the tribal council upstairs. And during that meeting, I expressed that I'm against the bear hunt and the wolf hunt. I expressed it again yesterday during one of our texting conversations. I wasn't at that Conservation Committee meeting yesterday. I was on sick leave. So just for clarification, it was the majority of the council that was there, but I wasn't there. And I didn't approve it. I still don't approve it. Thank you.
Granted, I'd also like to make a statement. Wasn't on the agenda, but I'm gonna slide in here. I did learn about this bear hunt last Thursday, and I myself was surprised that there was a bear hunt that was going on. You know, and I do want to apologize to the Chris Holm, Tony Mason, and the Conservation Committee, because I did make that decision based on emotion. It wasn't based on fact. I didn't have all the facts. I just made a decision based on emotion and an assumption, and I made myself look really bad. So I apologize, and I'm gonna learn from that mistake. I just want to make everybody aware that I did apologize to them, but I wanted to let everybody know and put it on record. So I do plan on learning from that mistake. I made a decision to stop that bear hunt, and I'll overstep my boundaries. I don't have the authority to make that kind of decision. I didn't have all the facts. There's a conservation committee in place, and they did make the decision, and I respect that. We have these processes in place, and once I learned that we did have a conservation committee, my views on everything that I had made changed, and I could have avoided the situation last Thursday when I was made aware by asking questions, but I didn't. You know, I waited till Monday, and then I made a decision based on emotion. So I didn't have all the facts, and I apologize. And hopefully we can move forward, and I learn from our mistake, and I don't make those kind of decisions again. apologize to the Conservation Committee and Chris Holm and Tony Mason. Thank you. With that being said, I did make that decision because of how I felt, and if I really felt strongly about it, I could have showed up to the Conservation Committee meetings and expressed my feelings. And I think anybody else in the community, if they have any concerns, they show up to the meetings and become involved. So, thank you.
I'd like to address some issues also. From the meeting yesterday, it was just what would you call it? A pop-up meeting. It wasn't an official RTC meeting where we approved the Conservation Committee and that we officially approved this or that. It was an opinion. I was also hesitant about the bear season happening. It was not to my knowledge either. I wasn't able to attend that urban office meeting. So I learned it just recently also. So I gave the, our DNR, Bois Forte DNR, and the Bois Forte Conservation Committee, information that if the council is just learning about this, bear hunt, then there must be some community members that do not know about it. So the Conservation Committee and the DNR staff should strive to do more outreach and education on this subject, be a little bit more transparent. I urge them to provide public comment to people, so they can come to the Conservation Committee and let their views be known. Or if they have experiences, it just needs to be more out there so everybody knows and everybody's knowledgeable about what is going on. The council should not have had to learn it in the fashion that they did. So I encouraged more transparency, outreach, and education to get all that information and then put some science into why this is happening, why the bear season is happening, and what are the outcomes. I would like a projection of, even if it's just Chris Holm guessing, making a projection, it will, reducing the bear, the count of the bear, reducing them by giving however many tags out will improve the deer herd by such and such percent. That's what kind of information I'd like to know, and I think the community would like to know that too. So I just encourage a lot more outreach and education for the Conservation Committee meetings and for the DNR to get out into the public and let them know about this hunt. Which
I think that was it. If there's no more items or no more discussion, I ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting at 11 a.m. Moved by Robert. Do I have a second? Second by Tara. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Any saw? Motion carried. Thank you all for joining us today.